Allah in Arabic is not just a title for God. It doesn't mean God, which I'll explain. Allah is a name, and I will prove that using the Quran. There's a clear distinction between the two words ilah and Allah, which brings me to the Shahada, the testimony of faith. La ilaha illa Allah, which literally translates as there is no God or deity but Allah. The way ilah and Allah are spelt in Arabic do look similar, and they sound similar, but are not the same thing. They're not the same word or meaning. When you say la ilaha, ilah means God or gods, but Allah is a name, the name of Muhammad's God. So you're saying there's no God but that one, that precise name, la ilaha illa Allah. Among all the other gods, Allah is the one and the only one according to Islam, according to Muslims, Muhammad. It's like saying there's no friend but Bob, for example. You wouldn't be able to say there's no Bob but friend. Would it make sense for one to say there's no God but Jesus? Yes. But it wouldn't make sense to say there's no Jesus but God. So there's no God but Allah. It doesn't say there's no Allah but God. Muhammad was making a statement, wanting to also deny Christ as God, by making it clear that, look, there's no God but Allah. To further prove this point, I will use the Quran. In the Quran, in Surah 52:43, we read this. So in Surah 52:43, we read, or have they, this is Muhsin Khan's English translation, or have they an ilah, and he puts in parentheses, in brackets, a God other than Allah, glorified be Allah from all that they ascribe as partners to him. So here we see another clear distinction between ilahun and Allahi. And again, Muhsin Khan's English translation just closes the case. So for anyone who speaks the Arabic language, it's obvious that Allah is simply the name of Muhammad's God. When you go to Deuteronomy 18, a passage that Muslims love to claim is speaking of Muhammad, in Deuteronomy 18 we read, "But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die." Muhammad spoke in the name of another God, Allah, which is not the name of God in the Bible. God in the Bible, his name is Yahweh. God specifically gave Moses his name in Exodus chapter 6. You see, anytime we read Lord in all caps, capital Lord, we read Yahweh in the original Hebrew. Yahweh, which is, again, the true and only name of God. In Exodus chapter 6, we read this. "And God spoke to Moses and said to him, I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as God Almighty, but by my name, Lord, I was not known to them." So, but by my name, Yahweh, I was not known to them. The name Yahweh was so sacred that the Jews abbreviated it to the Tetragrammaton four-letter word WHYH. Yod-He, Wah-He. But to completely change the name of God to a different name like Allah, something Muhammad did, is completely blasphemous. But the confusion for some Arabic-speaking Christians happens with Arabic Bibles, which translate God or Lord as Allah, due to Allah, the word, culturally and even religiously becoming the translation word for God in Arabic, which is incorrect. A proper translation for God in Arabic, in the Arabic Bibles, would be Reb or Ilah, or better yet, just use God's name, Yahweh Elohim. So to conclude this point, whether the name Allah came from some pre-Islamic moon god from Mecca, or it's the Arabic equivalent of the Aramaic Ilah, regardless, it is not the personal name for the God of Israel. And more importantly, it does not even mean God, as Muslims and even some Arabic Christians love to argue it does.